Imagine a young boy named Tendai living in a vibrant Shona village where the wisdom of elders shapes every decision. Like many, Tendai is stubborn, ignoring the advice of those who care for him. But when challenges arise and he faces the consequences of his actions, he learns an important lesson. The one who pulls your ear, the one who corrects you, does so out of love. Join Tendai on a journey of growth, discovery, and the timeless African wisdom in the proverb, Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, the one who pulls your ear is your own. The village of Mugari. Once upon a time, in the peaceful village of Mugari, there lived a young boy named Tendai. Mugari was a small village surrounded by tall msasa trees and wide rivers, with fields full of mbambaira, or sweet potatoes, and munga, which is known as millet in English. The people in the village were kind and hardworking, and they respected each other. They all lived together like one big family, helping each other in times of need. Tendai was known in the village for his speed and strength. He could run faster than anyone, climb the tallest trees, and his laugh could be heard from far away. But Tendai was also stubborn. When elders tried to advise him, he would shrug it off, thinking he knew better. One day, Tendai's mother, my Tendai, sat him down. "Tendai, my son," she said, her voice soft but firm, "you are growing fast, and soon you'll be a man. You must learn to listen to those who are older, for they have walked the path before you." Tendai frowned. "But, Mama, I already know many things. I don't need to be told what to do all the time." My Tendai smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "Remember this, my son. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, the one who pulls your ear, is your own. It is not out of anger, but out of love and care." Tendai did not understand what his mother meant at that moment. To him, advice and correction felt like a burden, something he didn't want, but soon he would learn a lesson that would change his heart forever. The Festival of Harvest. Every year, the village of Mugari celebrated the Festival of Harvest, a time when the people came together to give thanks for the crops they had grown. It was a colorful event full of music, dance, and feasting. Children ran around, laughing and playing, while elders sat down under the baobab tree, sharing stories of the past. Tendai loved the festival. He would join the other boys in wrestling matches and running races, showing off his skills. This year, he had a special plan. He wanted to climb the biggest tree in the village, a tall muvamroba tree that no one had ever dared to climb. Everyone warned him that the tree was too tall and dangerous, but Tendai was determined to prove that he was the bravest. As the sun began to set, Tendai sneaked away from the celebration and ran towards the tree. His best friend Ruwa followed him. "Tendai, are you sure about this?" Ruwa asked, her eyes wide with worry. "The elders say the Muvarmaropa tree is too dangerous." Tendai laughed. "Don't be afraid, Ruwa. I've climbed many trees before. This one is no different." But deep inside, Tendai felt a twinge of doubt. Still, his pride pushed him forward. They fall. Tendai started climbing the mubvamaropa tree, his heart racing with excitement. The branches were thick, and he felt strong as he pulled himself higher and higher. Below, Ruwa watched nervously, her hands clasped together. Tendai, come down. You are too high, she called out, but Tendai ignored her. Higher and higher he went, until he could see the entire village below him, tiny like ants. For a moment, Tendai felt invincible. But then suddenly, the branch he was standing on cracked. Before Tendai could react, it snapped completely, and he lost his balance. He fell through the branches, hitting them on his way down. With a thud, he landed on the hard ground, pain shooting through his body. Ruwa screamed and ran his side. Tendai! Tendai! Tendai groaned in pain, his leg hurt, and he could barely move. Ruwa ran back to the village to get help, and soon the elders and Tendai's mother came rushing to the scene. They carried Tendai back to the village, where the elder Akuruma Simba examined him. Tendai's leg was broken, and he would need weeks to heal. As he lay in his hut, Tendai's mother sat by his side. She didn't scold him, but her words from before echoed in his mind. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako. The healing begins. Tendai's leg was wrapped in a tight bandage, and Akuruma Simba gave him herbs to help him with the pain. Every day, Tendai would lie in his hut, unable to move, watching the other children playing outside. The festival of harvest continued, but Tendai could only hear the laughter and music from afar. He felt alone and ashamed. My Tendai stayed by his side, gently caring for him, but she said very little. Tendai knew that his mother's silence spoke louder than words. He had disobeyed, and now he was paying the price. One afternoon, as my Tendai was preparing food, Tendai turned to her. Mama, he said quietly, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. My Tendai looked at him with kind eyes. My son, sometimes we learn the hard way, but what matters is that you understand now. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako. I did not warn you to stop you from having fun. I warned you because I love you. Tendai nodded, tears stinging his eyes. He understood now. His mother's advice and the warnings from the elders were not meant to hold him back, but to protect him. They cared for him, even when he didn't see it. Ruwa's visit. One day, Ruwa came to visit Tendai. She brought with her a small basket of fruit and a bright smile. Tendai, how are you feeling? She asked, sitting next to him. I'm better, Tendai replied, his legs still wrapped in bandages. Thank you for getting help when I fell. Ruwa grinned. Of course, that's what friends are for. Besides, I told you not to climb that tree. Tendai laughed, though it hurt to do so. I know. I should have listened to you too. Ruwa nodded. Sometimes we need to be reminded. Even if it's hard, we must listen to those who care about us. Tendai thought about her words and smiled. He was lucky to have a friend like Ruwa who cared enough to warn him, even when he didn't want to hear it. As the days passed, Tendai's leg slowly healed. He could now move around with the help of a stick, and he was able to sit outside and enjoy the sunshine again. Ruwa visited often, bringing news from the village and keeping him company. Akuruma Simba's lesson. One afternoon, as Tendai sat outside his hut, Akuruma Simba the village healer, came to visit him. Sekuru was a wise old man with a long grey beard and deep, knowing eyes. Tendai, Sekuru Masimba said, sitting down beside him, I hear you have learned an important lesson. Tendai nodded. Yes, Sekuru, I learned that I should have listened to my mother and the elders. Sekuru Masimba smiled. That is a good start, Tendai, but there is more to learn. You see, life is full of lessons, and sometimes the hardest ones come from those who love us most. Tendai looked at Sekuru, puzzled. But why do they have to be hard? Sekuru chuckled. Because, my boy, we often do not listen when things are easy. When we are young, we think we know everything. But when we face challenges, we begin to understand that those who pull our ears do so to guide us. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, the one who pulls your ear is your own. Tendai thought about Sekuru's words and nodded. I understand now, Sekuru. I will be more careful in the future. Sekuru Masimba patted Tendai's shoulder. That is all we ask, Tendai. Learn from your mistakes and always remember that those who care for you will guide you, even if it is not always easy. The village meeting. As Tendai's leg grew stronger, the village elders decided to hold a meeting. It was time to discuss important matters, such as the upcoming planting season and the village's future plans. Tendai, now able to walk with just a slight limp, was excited to attend the meeting. In the village of Mugari, everyone had a voice, but it was the elders who guided the discussions. Chief Nyatsimba, a tall man with a deep voice, stood at the front of the gathering. He began the meeting by speaking about the success of the Harvest Festival and thanking the villagers for their hard work. As the meeting went on, different people spoke about their concerns. Some worried about the lack of rain, while others suggested new ways to improve the fields. Tendai sat quietly, listening carefully. He realized that the wisdom of the elders came from their years of experience. They had seen many seasons, faced many challenges, and learned from them. They were not just giving advice for the sake of it. They were guiding the village toward a better future. Tendai's promise. As Tendai listened to the elders at the village meeting, he felt a strong sense of responsibility growing within him. He realized that one day he too would be an elder guiding the next generation. But for now, he had much to learn. After the meeting, Tendai approached Chief Nyatsimba, bowing respectfully. Chief, Tendai began, I've made mistakes, but I want to learn. I want to be someone the village can count on. Chief Nyatsimba looked at Tendai thoughtfully. It is good that you recognize your mistakes, young Tendai, but learning takes time, and wisdom comes through patience and listening. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, remember that. Tendai nodded. I promise, Chief, I will listen and learn. The chief smiled. That is all we ask of you. Every person in this village has something to offer, and by working together we all grow. Tendai left the meeting feeling determined. He would take his place in the village as a responsible young man, someone who could be trusted. His days of ignoring advice were behind him. The return of the rains. The days passed and soon the rain season arrived. The dark clouds rolled in over the hills, and the first drops of rain began to fall, bringing much-needed water to the dry fields. The villagers rejoiced, knowing that the rains would bring life back to their crops. Tendai, now fully healed, worked alongside the other boys in the fields, planting seeds of maize and munga. The rains came steadily, and the fields began to sprout with green shoots. One evening, as Tendai walked home after a long day of work, he spotted Akuruma Simba sitting under a tree, watching the rain fall gently. "Sekuru," Tendai greeted him, sitting down beside the old man. "The rains have come at last." Akuruma Simba nodded. "Yes, and with the rains now, it comes with new beginnings. Just as the earth receives the rain and grows, we too must be open to the lessons life brings." "You have learned much, Tendai, but there's always more to learn." Tendai smiled. "I am ready, Sekuru. I will listen to those who guide me." Akuruma Simba chuckled softly. "Good. And remember, the one who pulls your ear does so with love." Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako. The Tale of the Hunter. One evening, the villagers gathered around the fire for storytelling. It was a tradition in Mugari for the elders to share tales of wisdom passed down through generations. Tendai loved these evenings, and he sat eagerly at the front, ready to listen. This night, it was Sekuru Garikai, one of the oldest and wisest men in the village, who told the story. "Long ago," Sekuru Garikai began, "there was a young hunter named Nyasha. He was brave and skilled with a spear, but he was also stubborn, much like some of the young men here." He winked at Tendai, making the crowd chuckle. Nyasha's father, who was also a great hunter, warned him many times to be careful in the deep forest, for there were dangerous animals and hidden traps. But Nyasha thought he knew better. One day, Nyasha went hunting alone, ignoring his father's advice. As he ventured deep into the forest, he came across a lion. Instead of retreating, Nyasha thought he could defeat the lion with his spear. But as he raised his weapon, the lion roared and charged at him. Nyasha was quick, but not quick enough. The lion's powerful paw struck him, and he fell to the ground, wounded. Desperate, he climbed a nearby tree to escape. There he waited for hours until the lion finally left. Nyasha was lucky to be alive, but his pride had been hurt. When he returned to the village, his father did not scold him. Instead, he simply said, "Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, I warned you not to go alone because I care for you, my son." Nyasha learned that day that his father's wisdom came from experience, not from trying to stop him from being a brave hunter. As Sekuru Garikai finished the story, Tendai thought about how much it reminded him of his own mistakes. He was thankful for the people in his life who cared enough to pull his ear. Preparing for the future. As the rainy season continued, the fields in Mugari flourished. The maize grew tall, and the villagers prepared for another bountiful harvest. Tendai worked harder than ever, helping his mother in the fields and fetching water from the river. One day, while they were planting, my Tendai looked at her son and said, "You are growing into a fine young man, Tendai. Soon you will have your own family and responsibilities." Tendai blushed, embarrassed by his mother's words. "I still have much to learn, Mama." My Tendai smiled. "That is true, but you are learning, and when the time comes, you'll be ready. Remember that I always tell you, Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, the ones who guide you do so out of love to prepare you for the future. Tendai nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride. He was becoming more aware of his place in the village, and he knew that his mother's words were meant to help him grow into a responsible adult. Ruwa's new path. As Tendai continued to grow, so did his friend Ruwa. She was now one of the most talented girls in the village, known for her skills in weaving baskets and making pottery. The village women often came to her for help, and her work was praised by everyone. One day, Ruwa came to Tendai with exciting news. Tendai, I've decided to learn more about pottery from my auntie in the city of Harare, Ruwa said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Tendai was surprised. The city? But that is so far away. When will you leave? In a few weeks, Ruwa replied. My aunt has offered to teach me everything she knows. I want to bring new skills back to the village. Tendai felt a pang of sadness at the thought of his friend leaving, but he was also happy for her. You will learn so much, Ruwa. I know you will make our village proud. Ruwa smiled. I hope so. And don't worry, I'll come back and visit often. You'll see me again. As the day of Ruwa's departure approached, the villagers gathered to wish her well. Tendai gave her a small gift, a woven bracelet made from reeds, a reminder of their friendship. Be safe, Ruwa, Tendai said as they stood by the edge of the village. And remember, Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, always listen to those who guide you. Ruwa nodded, her heart full of gratitude for her friend and her village. I will, Tendai. I will come back with stories to tell you. A stranger's visit. One evening, as the sun was setting, a stranger arrived in the village. He was a tall man with a long walking stick and a bag slung over his shoulder. The villagers gathered around him, curious about who he was and where he had come from. The man introduced himself as Munashe, a traveler who had been walking from village to village, learning about the different cultures and traditions of the land. Chief Nyatsimpa welcomed him and offered him food and shelter for the night. As the villagers sat around the fire, Munashe began to share stories of the places he had visited. He spoke of distant lands, great rivers, and mountains that touched the sky. Tendai listened with wide eyes, fascinated by the stories. Have you learned anything in your travels that can help us here in Mugari? Asked one of the elders. Munashe smiled. I've learned many things, but the most important lesson I've learned is that no matter where you go, the wisdom of the elders is always the same. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, those who care for you will always guide you, even when you travel far from home. The villagers nodded in agreement, and Tendai felt a deep sense of connection to the wisdom that Munashe had shared. No matter where one went, the love and guidance of family and elders remained constant. The test of patience. One day, the villagers of Mugari faced a challenge. The rains, which had come so steadily before, suddenly stopped. The sky remained clear for weeks, and the fields began to dry up. The crops, which had been growing so well, now struggled to survive without water. The village elders called a meeting to discuss what should be done. Some villagers suggested traveling to the river more often to fetch water, while others worried that it would not be enough. Chief Nyatsimpa turned to Tendai, who had been quietly listening. Tendai, what do you think we should do? Tendai was surprised to be asked for his opinion, but he spoke carefully. I think we should continue to fetch water from the river, but also pray for the rains to return. We must be patient and not lose hope. The elders nodded in agreement. Patience was a virtue they had taught Tendai many times before, and now he was showing that he had learned. A test of unity. As the dry days continued, the villagers of Mugari worked together to fetch water from the river. Tendai, despite the long hours and heavy work, stayed focused. He was determined to help, just as the elders had taught him. Everyone in the village, from the youngest to the oldest, played a part in keeping the crops alive. One day, as Tendai was carrying water with his mother, he noticed something. The villagers were not complaining, and they were not afraid. Instead, they worked as a united family, helping each other and staying hopeful. Chief Nyatsimba, who often watched from the hill, smiled down at his people. This is what it means to be a community, he told Tendai. When hard times come, we lean on each other. That is why we say Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, your family and friends will always guide you and support you, even in the most difficult moments. Tendai nodded, understanding that unity was also a form of wisdom. He was proud to be part of such a caring, strong village. The return of the rains. After several weeks of hard work and patience, the skies above Mugari finally began to change. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, and soon the first drops of rain fell gently onto the thirsty earth. The villagers cheered as the rain poured down, bringing life back to the fields. Tendai stood in the rain, feeling the cool drops on his face. He smiled, knowing that the village had endured this challenge together. The crops began to flourish once again, and soon the fields were green with fresh maize and millet. The rains had returned, not because of impatience or worry, but because the village had stayed united and hopeful, trusting in the wisdom of their elders. Ruva's return. One bright morning, Ruva returned to Mugari from her journey to Harare. The villagers gathered to welcome her back, eager to hear about her experiences in the city. Ruva had learned many new skills, and she brought back beautiful pottery and that amazed everyone. Tendai was happy to see his friend again. They sat under the large baobab tree, talking about all that happened while she was away. I missed the village, Ruva said. The city was exciting, but it wasn't like home. Here we take care of each other, and the wisdom of our elders guides us every day. In the city, people are sometimes too busy to listen. Tendai nodded. I'm glad you're back, Ruva, and I've learned that there's no place like Mugari, where we are always reminded that Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, the ones who pull our ears, are those who love us. Ruva smiled. Yes, and that wisdom will always lead us back home. Tendai's responsibility. As time passed, Tendai continued to grow both in strength and wisdom. Chief Nyatsimba began to notice Tendai's efforts and how he had changed from the stubborn boy he once was. The chief decided it was time to give Tendai more responsibility in the village. Tendai, Chief Nyatsimba said one afternoon, you have shown that you are willing to listen, to learn, and to lead. The elders and I have decided that you will help guide the young boys during the planting season. Tendai was surprised but honored. He had never imagined that one day he would be trusted to teach others. I will do my best, Chief, Tendai said humbly. Chief Nyatsimba smiled. I know you will, and remember, even as a leader, you will still need guidance from those around you. Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, you never stop learning. The lesson of the sparrow. One day, as Tendai was leading the young boys in planting, he noticed a small sparrow struggling to fly. The bird had a broken wing and it hopped along the ground, trying to escape danger. Tendai carefully picked it up and carried it to a safe place where he tended to its injured wing. As the days passed, the sparrow healed and eventually flew away, strong and free again. Watching the bird fly, Tendai thought about how it reminded him of himself. Just like the sparrow, he had once been wounded by his own stubbornness and pride. But with the care and guidance of his mother, the elders, and friends like Ruva, he had healed and grown stronger. He realized that everyone needed guidance at some point, and those who loved you would always be there to help you fly again. The celebration of wisdom. The time came for another great village celebration. The fields were full, the crops were ready for harvest, and the people of Mungari were full of joy. The year's festival was special for Tendai, for it marked his journey from a boy who once ignored advice to a young man who had learned the value of listening. During the celebration, Chief Nyatsimba stood before the villagers and praised their unity and strength. Then he called Tendai forward. Tendai has shown us that growth comes not only from the body, but from the heart and mind. He has learned that Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako, those who correct you do so because they care. Today we celebrate not only our harvest, but also the wisdom that guides our village. The villagers clapped and cheered, and Tendai felt a warmth in his heart. He understood that the lessons he had learned were not just for him, but for the whole village, for they all lived by the same wisdom. In conclusion, the story of Tendai teaches us the value of listening to those who guide us, especially our elders and loved ones. The proverb Akuruma Nzeve Ndewako reminds us that correction and advice come from a place of love. Tendai's journey shows that though it may be hard to accept guidance at times, it is through this guidance that we grow stronger, wiser, and more responsible. So the moral lessons of this story is that wisdom comes from experience. Elders and those who have lived longer have knowledge that can protect and guide us. And the other thing is that listening to advice is a sign of strength, not weakness. It takes humility and courage to accept guidance from others, especially when it is difficult to hear. Also, community and unity are essential. A strong community works together, listens to each other, and supports one another in both good times and bad. The other thing is growth comes through learning from mistakes. Like Tendai, we can become better people when we acknowledge our mistakes and learn from them. Also, love is shown through correction. Those who care for us are the ones who will pull our ears and guide us, not to harm us, but to help us grow. So in the end, the village of Mugari thrived, and Tendai became a symbol of how listening and learning lead to a life full of wisdom and happiness. As you follow Tendai's journey, reflect on the wisdom in your own life. Who has lovingly pulled your ear to guide you towards growth? Take a moment to appreciate those who correct and advise you, knowing that their guidance comes from a place of care. Embrace the lessons you learn and remember, true growth happens when we listen to those who love us. Share this story and its message with others and inspire them to honor the wisdom in their lives.